every week a different group in the assembly takes up the service. We have, not online. You're not online yet? Okay. Ready? I'm not able to read. Okay, so we want to welcome those online. And the order for our service is that each Sabbath evening in the month, one section of the church takes up the service. We have the women, the men, the young people, and I can't remember the fourth one. So today it's the men to take up the service. And so we divided it up into about 3 major parts. And my part, as soon as I get this computer booted up, would be to do the week in review, some events that transpired, about 2 of them having a global impact, possibly 3. So we're going to look at these not in depth, but just a passing review. Current affairs, the week in review, that's the week just ended. Now, after these news items, more significantly, we will have a reading of Matthew 24 with commentary and interaction so that we would be more focused on what the Bible says about the times in which we are living, because you know the news is not the gospel. The news is not the gospel. The news is just information from north, east, west, and south. NEWS, that's all it is. Information from north, east, west, and south. So, as soon as I could boot up here, we will get going. So there are always issues that are trending and that piques human interest. And there's an overkill. Everybody wants to write, everybody wants to tell you something about something. How do you stay focused, and how do you know what is significant and what is relevant? Well, it's not the easiest thing in the world. However, we do have the headlines before the headlines. Long before we know the details, the Bible gave us in Matthew 24 some of the themes. I wouldn't steal the thunder from that section, which would be read by Brother Deacon Edwards and coordinated by Pastor Winsborough. So here, I'd like to mention 3 things that occurred during the week and they impacted our society, and let's see what lessons we can draw from them. Now, it is important to pay attention to current affairs, because it gives you an idea as to what's going on in the world, and you can use it to reach out to people. So here we go. One of the first things that happened in the world was the helicopter crash of who? Kobe Bryant. What age he was? What age he was? No, he played basketball for 20 years. He couldn't have died at 26. Oh, the date was, okay, right, because I was wondering if he died at 26, he was playing ball from 6 years. Right, so he and his daughter, 13-year-old, died in a helicopter crash. Subsequently, we discovered that he and his wife, Vanessa, agreed that they'll never travel together in a helicopter. Because you know, he used helicopter. When you have $500 million, you don't sit in traffic jam, right? Okay. But then sometimes your means of transport could be a demise. Okay, so you say, well, what does that have to do with the church? Nothing directly, my thoughts and reflection. Now this young man, he broke a few records well, quite a few of them. It's going to be a long time before there's a human being like him on the earth in that sporting arena. So let's take some takeaways, because there is nothing very spiritual about that. There might soon appear conspiracy theories, but we don't speculate, we deal with the facts. So let's look at the man. Generally, we don't exalt sporting heroes, but we can observe human achievements. Yes? So what is unique about him, I listened to him in an interview, and he said he had a kill list. In other words, there were people that he felt one way or the other he's going to match and beat them. And so he set out on a journey in which he built his mind. He was not intimidated by anybody, whether it was Shaq or whoever. You'll see that in the sporting arena. And that is what reached me, because I'm both in the assembly and in my other job as a life coach. I believe that the human being could achieve anything that they set out to do. And then Bishop brought it out in the sermon that don't tell me this thing about the devil. You know, the devil make me do it. When you look at it, let's look at it from two perspectives. One is there is the humanists and motivational speakers that they come a dime a dozen, and they show us that anything we can think we can achieve. We are not pushing the humanist agenda. We are pushing the Messiah's agenda. And it is rather pitiful and unfortunate to see that people are in the world, none of my stuff is coming up. People are in the world, they are convinced that they can achieve things, and, well, let me don't make a conclusive statement. Let's reflect on that and see. Are you achieving above and beyond average? Because these people, they put money. You go and you Google Shaq O'Neal, X amount of millions, LeBron James, X amount of millions, Brian Kobe, X amount of millions. So that's difficult for many of us to relate to, not me, right? So that's difficult for many of us to relate to, and it would be sort of unreasonable and far-fetched to talk about that aspect of it. But let's talk about attainable and achievable things. We are in here, and let's reflect. What goals do you set yourself as a believer? Are you living the same way? The year is pretty young. This is the second month in the calendar year, so that's one gauge, not the only one. You can set other way of gauging, but let's deal with goals. Because when I look at this man, he really, as many of them are in sports, they are aggressive. They set goals and they achieve it. They make sure that they have coaches, and when they have to meet an opponent, they will watch the video of the person's play over and over. They take their career seriously. And that is my takeaway from it, because you meet people, and I don't have issues with people having problems. My issue with people having problems is what they're doing about it. I remember twice, I would draw a lesson from my family. One time my daughter had to go to a special school because of, I think, how they categorize her. So they found the school, but I wasn't in America, and I had to make a decision. So she called me all flustered and concerned, like somebody else would have to make the decision. If you know anything about me, I don't allow people just into my family space like that. So she's thinking I'm not there to sign the documents and whatever. So give me the person's number. So I called the school, and they couldn't tell that I wasn't in America. How would they tell by the phone? So the guy answers, and I say, look, we need to get, I think it was your schedule or whatever it is that is needed about the school. Can I have it by email? He said, sure. So he emailed it to me, and I called my daughter, and she was amazed as to how it was done. And I said, look, when you talk to me, call me the solution, Dad, because I don't see the problem. I start seeing the solution. And another instance was when she went to school for the first time. She was homeschooled, and she had some issue, and in America called, she was not feeling well, and they was going to make a big thing, and that was not something that was good for the family. So my wife called, and then I called, and even though she was crying, she said, Dad, how you got this number? I said, you don't worry about that. So I wanted her, the idea I want to sell to her about myself and what I want to discuss out of the Kobe Bryant thing. You can achieve things, especially when you put yourself on the side of God. And once you have big plans and big ideas, and you put these things in the Lord, one of my mentors says, think big. And that's what, there's not much you could dwell on there, because these events are not the gospel. But you look at them and you see, this is what a human being achieves. So again, you could Google it, because this is not the gospel. And this young man, Kobe Bryant, his name was after one of the places that beef come from in Japan, that's a Kobe, and he lived, I think it was in Italy. So he came back to America. His father was military, speaking 2 languages, and he set himself from about 19, went in and played basketball, and he just shattered the record. He pushed himself. He pushed himself, and he set goals. And we watched this passing there before us, and what do we do? And these guys, I think he had about 2 million or so, 200 million or so in his from his career, and then upon retiring, he put $1 million in something called venture capital. So I think his net worth was 500 million. Now, that's the way the world measures things. There's something to take away from it. But what are our plans? What can we do that will have more? Can we do that we'll have more so we can get more done? It's one thing to find that is worthy and I just want a little house and I want a little car. Okay, those figures big for you. But for you have this year and you have talent, resources. Many of us we are not feeble. We may be senior, but it's not over. And some of us still have a lot of years. What kind of goals do we set and how do we go about it where we accumulate professionals, because that's how these guys do it. They go to, when he said he would go around to other basketballers and pick their brain and how you do it. You know, because Michael Jordan and Shaq, and they were older than him, and Magic Johnson. So they have a plan. Do you have a plan? And how can you be that achiever? What kind of goals do you set? So that's what you can get from him. Another important thing from him, this one I'm going to take very far. There is a way that the image of black people is torn down. But if you look at Shaq, there's some beautiful pictures with him looking right into his daughter's eyes. And I wish I had a big screen here. I will ever remember that. And that's why he died, by the way. He won a shuttle, go and play ball, rush back and be there for his children and so on. He was that dad. And he was really into parenting. And you see the beautiful pictures of him. That's what we should do in these depressed areas. Take a nice blow-up riser and pay for the billboard so they would see us as father. You have to understand that once Satan get the men, it's all over. And how are black men perceived? Or you're going to see it for carnival. Get down low, wine and jam. All the beauty of Kaiso is, you could barely hear good Kaiso commentary. You know, it's all the derogatory words about a woman behind and so on. And who leading the way, all of the women not backward, don't call names, leading the way in that cause is the men. They're calling that shot. So, you know, think about it. You have the art form, and the only thing that the black people bring to the fete is the wine, pun intended. Everybody owns everything else. Johnny Q owns everything else. So when that is done, and you get 20, 30 years into the industry, what do you have except the wine, pun intended? Okay, so the imagery of black people, the very things that we're talented at is being used to take us out. So that's the final thing about Kobe. Those of you who look up, you'll see beautiful imagery of him and his daughter together. That's what we should hold up. Because when the papers come and the other people pass the exam, we invisible. President medal, we're not there, we're not there, we're not there, we're not there, we're not there. And we only have room for about the first 3 or 4. So when we come to 13th, that's a big thing to us, but we know where to be seen in the papers and so on. And these imagery go a long way. So I'll come off that. Some of you're probably lost into that part of it. Now, another big thing that occurred, I don't know where everything went here. The coronavirus that became from event in China to now a pandemic. World Health Organization is warning. They're giving us the table of nations that got it. Now, coronavirus is not new. You're probably back up your that part of it. Another big thing that so far. On Lysol, yes, Lysol.
The coronavirus.
Did I call the wrong one? Okay, all right. So what's different would be the strain, right? Because viruses have different strain. It is possible that there's genetic engineering. I haven't checked the facts, so I wouldn't start spreading that. However, what is clear is the economic impact. So let's delve on that a little bit. We're living in a world that Eurocentrism, that is to say white dominance, is what make the news. And white dominance means that Eurocentrism will use any and every weapon to remain dominant. And therefore, when we speak in this church about returning to the right form of worship, that's the place we can have the most effect, but it's not the only place we should wage the war. Recently, and this week, or last week, there was a picture of some climate change activists, those people who warn us about global warming and the ice cap melting. And the picture had a Ugandan in it with 3 white people. You know what happened, right? They cropped out the Ugandan girl and just showed us the imagery. But if you have a cause that is as they tell us, as threatening as global warming, wouldn't you want every hand on deck? Why would you want only white people to say it? So I'm going to be talking about that. Is a current study with my daughter that I'm doing. But in the global economy, you may not be paying attention to it, but China is leading ahead. And therefore this bothers the Western nation that China is ahead in economics. And you see, the thing about the Chinese, because of the kind of government that they have, they are able to get mass amount of people and cheap labor. Okay, so your cell phones that you enjoy, many of them are made in China for cheap labor and sold in the West expensive. Did somebody say slavery was over? Okay, so how do you, the West doesn't take that too kindly. There's a joke, but it's a serious thing. Do you all know what's a bullet train? It's a train that travels at a certain amount of miles per hour, very fast, and so on. So the Japanese went in to build some bullet train for the Chinese, right? And they were contracted. So they say, wow, as we say in Trinidad, we eat our food here. They build the first train, and then the Chinese tell them, thank you, bye-bye. What do you think happened there? They rip off the technology. And you have to understand that's what's going on with China. They're moving at a rapid pace. We used to know about John Deere building tractors. You all know that? You know a tractor? Okay. Well, China take a piece of each one and build a tractor cheaper, and they tell everybody, well, you can't touch us. Which part is yours? You all saw when the 4-door cabin pickup. When last you see a 2-door pickup, a Mazda pickup with 2 doors? It's been a while, right? So the inflick is Navarro and this one, and everybody have a 4-door, right? Suddenly I started to hear about Great Wall. China into the race, they're making pickup too. So that bothers the West. The West snub Africa because in 1883 there was the Berlin Conference in which the grab was on for Africa. So Africa had Portuguese, French, English, and Spanish pushing in a different direction, and that is how Africa is colonized. They had this conference and they grabbed. Now once they grab and they colonize, then after World War II, many African countries and many countries decide they want independence, whatever that means. So the white people say, oh, you're putting me out. Right. So they never pumped money into the development of Africa. They went Asia because these are more Pacific people. So they played off Asia, Taiwan and Thailand and Korea and so on. And that's how you have these nations blowing up, making cars and things like that. Okay. So they neglect the country. And as they neglect Africa, they the Chinese again showed up, start building bridges, putting their own police force and so on. And so Africa is picking up in some things. The only thing is the trade-off, which we'll discuss. Okay? So now, I told you that so that you will pay attention to, in terms of world economic growth, China had the edge, and there has been negotiation between President Trump and China. Remember, his slogan is "Make America Great Again." Do you all understand what that means? Anybody here could explain what that means? Let me tell you what that means, and I want you to think about it. Anytime you watch back in the 60s and the 50s and you see those Cadillac and those cars and America was fine, and how many of you have relatives that went to America in the 60s, went to be nurse and so on? You remember that? Remember that? Right. So the America was great, oil prices right, and it was growing and so on. But during that era when America was great, there weren't many people of color that could have threatened anybody. But today, you have rappers with 40 million. You go to the crib and you see, as they call it, fleets of vehicles. And you have Latinos. So white people scratching their head and say, something wrong with this picture. These are our country. What all them people of color making so much money and calling the shots for us? So they came up with a code word, because white people speak in codes, "Make America Great Again." Wink, wink. Right. So that's how Eurocentrism ruled the world. We'll give you bits and pieces of it. So our responsibility is to deal with the worship part of it. But I can tell you this of a surety. Many of the world conflicts that you hear around, or the issues you hear in the world, trust me, behind it is a little Eurocentrism. So that's the way to look at the world. And that's why now, think for a while. If China is the runaway horse and the economy is developing, how about a little disease to slow them down? It makes sense now? Right. So just Google it and you'll see phrases like, "The world economy has started slowing down." That's code words. Code words. Because now you have trouble, you will have to listen to me. Do you know that they arrest a lady who is a CEO of a company, of a phone called Huawei, spelled with a H, and the company only crime is they're doing business? How does they arrest a lady who is a CEO of a company called Huawei, spelled with an H, and the crime that the company has done is that they're doing business? This is what we need to understand what Eurocentrism is. It is, when you were small, did you ever have a dispute with your siblings and one person say, "Mommy, Tony, take the bigger half of the bake"? How do you have bigger and half? How do you put that together? Huh? Because somebody was greedy and the next person was greedy and they're fighting over the little Johnny bake. You remember the days when you just put some butter in it and things? Remember those days? Something went wrong there. Okay. So just as in sibling rivalry in your home, the world have people who are contesting for supremacy and they don't play fair. So they will do things to slow down your growth, and that is what form the issues in the news. The news therefore become very easy to understand. So let me give you one that didn't happen this week. So all the time Europeans going in and they're taking mercenaries and letting people kill one another so they'll control the diamond market. As soon as black people start coming in, they say blood diamonds. So then I would say, I want to know they have something called the Kimberley certificate. Where you get a diamond from? In your own country, you know. That's right. And then everybody starts saying, yeah, they see them diamonds, I'm not buying that, I'm not supporting no blood diamond. They create the problem and produce a solution. Over and over, you'll see me show you this, is what I call it the cause of world unrest. There are people that believe they're superior and they will make your life a living hell to prove that they're superior. When you understand that, you would understand why in this country you could never get a papers or people calling Dr. Keith Rowley doctor. It's always Rowley. Because the color of his skin, what doctor he is. The cause of world unrest is people's psyche who think they're superior when they're really inferior. So when you understand that, it's not the gospel, but you understand the world in which you live in and don't follow all and the little stories you'll hear around that really scare tactics and all that sort of a thing. The world, you get to shrink the world and you say, oh, there's nothing to that really. There's people thinking that they're important. Okay, coming back to the event. So that was event 2, and watch it, Google it, and you would see the real impact of the pandemic is the economic slowdown. And then if you could find legitimate proof, it might very well be biological warfare. Do you know that when America was conquering the Americans from the Native Americans, mistakenly called Indians, do you know that they gave them blankets to sleep on with smallpox? You all know that, right? So there's been a long history of oppression and suppression. And that is what, do not easily believe what you hear out there. But when we come to Matthew 24, we will see we had news before the news. Okay, so the other drama of the week gone by, a week in review current affairs, was the impeachment hearing of the strangest guy that has occupied White House. This guy is bent on everything Obama say. You know, he used to play a game. What would you, somebody say something? There's a game like that. Or lady say this, or Brady say this, and you have to say that or something like that? Huh? You have to do it. Yeah, well, he does undo it. So whatever Obama say, he undo it. Do you know he's literally hunting? You all know that, right? Do you all know that? He literally goes through and look to see whatever is done on this side, he would not do it. You all know that? No, this is so. I'm not making this up. Right. Thou shalt not be a false witness. Okay. So in the hearings, we really not focusing on the character. On the hearings, the allegation is something treasonous and criminal was done, in which an issue surrounding international affairs and a negotiation in which you're not supposed to use your office to dig up dirt on your opponent to interfere with an international policy. That's it. Everybody get that? If you're not clear, let me know. Right? You cannot come and say, I'm going to give you aid, but you have to give me some dirt on my enemy. That's personal. This is a policy. America took a position with the Ukraine because Ukraine is near to Russia, and Russia take a piece of Ukraine. And Ukraine needed help. So Ukraine say, help! And America say, we'll help you. We'll give you this and we'll give you that. And we'll help you to keep your country. You cannot come now and say, I will give you the money, but you got to tell me some dirt on my opponent. That's wrong. You see, that's clear. Now you would think that in a country like that, grown men would be able to see that for what it is and take action, right? That's pretty straightforward, right? Right. So why is that important? That is important because we here have studied relativism, one, and in the coming of a Sunday law, the people that will push for a Sunday law, they will not be people of principle and character. And we must learn to see through the facade, because there are people who eat with knife and fork and are very groomed and goes to prestigious schools and so on, and they don't worth 2 cents in their morals. And we had better be very sober and see them for what they are, because they tell us institutionally that they're better than us. That's what they say. They call our countries all kind of derogative rules. They make sure that too much of us don't come there. They have all kind of ways to make sure that they manage quotas, because their civilization is superior and they don't want too much of us around. That is what the issues in America is. Now, when we deal with a Sunday law enforcement is loaded with other social issues and so on. And that is why you need to see how a simple thing like climate change can be taken up by the Pope as a policy and rally. Do you know the Pope summons everybody this year to meet him, right? Yeah, over climate change. He didn't decide if it would be the Vatican way. We'll read it for you. It's there. He summons everybody to address this issue. So when you know the issues, you will see the likelihood of any social issue being taken up by the papacy and being used to advance the Vatican policy. It doesn't matter. People tend to think it has to be the Republican. The Pope is good at his game. He could do it any which way. Those are these kind of analysis done by people who don't know what they're talking about. The Pope could work with an atheist, or it doesn't matter. His policy prevails. So you learn to get us, and that's about it. That is what the issue with the impeachment. When you look at it, you get a clear view of men in the right mind. They're not insane, and they see an issue, and they will not take a stand on it. And therefore you see the kind of characters that are in the world. These are the same people who would watch other people as derogatory and all kind of grandiose spiritual issue about abortion and gay marriages and so on. So the world at that level is very corrupt. And if you could understand that little bit about it, that would be a lesson in current affairs. That is a trending issue. It is to be voted on. And it went from one part of the Senate to the House, which is dominated by Republicans. And if they have their way, the president will just get a little pat on the hand and he'll just walk free. Right. So we don't get involved. We don't make derogatory and critical remarks, because in a world like this, what you want to know, you want to understand the issue. And by the way, the chaplain who prayed for the Senate hearing is a black man, a Seventh Adventist, who does Bible study in the White House on Wednesday nights. And he told them in his prayer, it's all over, what you sow is what you're going to reap. So at least we know that a witness was born during the hearing. There, right? So you look that up, that's trending right through. Okay, so that's your week in review, and I hope that from time to time you become interested in current affairs, not in the excessive details, because that which has been already. There's nothing new under the sun. Do you know that if you want to understand a lot about the current president, just look at Nebuchadnezzar, full of himself, very cocky, arrogant to the hilt, and God waited until he was sleeping, crawl up next to his head. You can imagine, Nebuchadnezzar woke up breaking a serious sweat. He summons everybody and asking them, what do you think about Nebuchadnezzar, sister Kwashi? You call everybody to ask them what you dream. What do you think about that? How does that work? You call everybody and telling them that I tell you what it is you dream. I mean, this is the height of arrogance. You dream a thing? Tell us. And then the other fellows and them who are just eating our food and pretending they know it, have plenty of them. You know, do you all notice something? I want you all to observe something. I'll be doing this. There's a nice web between the journalists and the expert that's been giving the government pressure. They really know nothing, you know. They have people that do research for them, you all know that? And hand them the research. And they just give prognosis. They don't work a place, they produce nothing. They always know what the government could do and they say obvious thing. Increase the employment and so on. You see, them kind of people, it's them that Nebuchadnezzar said, let me tell all the experts. You see, all the experts, let me tell all you something. You see, before nightfall, you better tell me what I dream. Otherwise, your head rolling. Stop this just living off and eating and just moving around the place doing. Plenty people they are armchair philosophers. They're good for nothing. Just to read and analyze and so on. You all pay attention to that. Right. So, the behavior of Nebuchadnezzar, full of himself, and yet God was able to, through his dream, creep into his head and have him sweating it out. That is the takeaway, and that is it is ever like that. Everybody want to make their country great again and a great empire and so on. But God is able to humble world leaders, and we should not be afraid. There are people who are frightened if this current president win the election again. I mean, what is that to us? What that really is to us? And they caught up back and forth, and they want to see the Democrats come in and all that sort of a thing, as they want to be here down here forever, ever, amen. But that's not what we look. We don't look for picking sides. We look to see these behavior unfold and therefore be aware of the world that we're living in and see the hand of God and what are the various lessons that we can learn. So we had the death of a great athlete, we had the breakup of a virus, and an ongoing impeachment that just shows the character of a world leader, which we saw that before in Nebuchadnezzar, right? So it should encourage you to restudy Nebuchadnezzar and his arrogance. You know, this man was so arrogant. He dreamt something with a head of gold and a body of this, and he built and ever. God said, I think it's time for you to eat grass. So we reached a chapter where he had to go and eat grass. You see, nothing is new. Do you see arrogant, cocky leaders? They have been here already. Don't be moved. Go back into your Bible and show people this has been already. Men get beside themselves, but the kingdom is the Lord's. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth. The kingdom is his forever and ever. So I hope that this little talk spark your interest to ask questions, read good analysis, forget the propaganda, and don't get too caught up in some of the events as though the very world was coming to the end. When Guaido was challenging Maduro, people say he'll have warships down here, and so we better know what he's doing. Them Americans could come down here for him. Maduro is still in power. Guaido trying to figure out what he's doing, and it's no warships down here. So they got caught up in the heat of it and say, boy, want to rowley boy, he talking to the president like that in his own house. And they took it further than it is. Mr. Maduro is still there, and Guaido on the run, because he's a little boy in case you don't know. Right? They got on the wrong side of current affairs, and that's not how it's to be understood. So I'm not suggesting to get so passionately involved and to believe the doom and gloom. But there is something to be known and lessons that can be gained. And most of all, in the next section, read by Deacon Edward, shared by Pastor Winsborough, we'll get even more biblical. So this has been your week in review, current affairs, and we'll be hearing more of this when we come around to the men's section again. Yes.
Pleasant afternoon, brethren. To God be the glory. Great things you have done. My name is Deacon Edwards, as was said. This afternoon we are going to explore Matthew chapter 24. As we are seeing current affairs in the world taking place, we know for sure that we are nearing the end of time. As Elder Hartman rightly pointed out, in current affairs, all these things that are taking place in our world today, notwithstanding earthquakes, wars. Do you know that right now Russia is engaged in war with what is his name again? Ukraine, right? And then we have the Middle East, and we have all other parts of the world that are unsettled as far as war is concerned. So, as we look at some of the scriptures on Matthew chapter 24, we are going to interact. I am not going to only read alone, but feel free to come up with questions or comments as you see fit. So I will engage us to take out our Bibles on the book Matthew chapter 24. But before we do so, I would like to just sing one stanza of the song 213. Jesus is coming again. If someone could get the songbook.